The day I stopped being an accessory. I didn't break up with her in a fight. I didn't slam a door or throw a glass or deliver some movie monologue that made strangers clap. I just stepped out of frame. It happened during a photo she didn't even post. One second, I was standing beside my girlfriend of nearly 3 years, smiling like a normal human being, and the next, she was staring at my face with the kind of impatience people reserve for bad lighting. "Ethan," she hissed through her teeth without moving her lips. "Can you move? You're distracting. Distracting. Not, hey babe, can you shift a bit? Not, can you step back so we're centered? Distracting. As if my existence was a smudge on the lens. And in that tiny moment, under a string of overpriced fairy lights and the gaze of a dozen people pretending not to listen, I finally understood what I'd become. Not a partner, not even a boyfriend, a background prop, a human tripod with a credit limit. And once you realize you've been living as furniture, you start to wonder why you're paying the rent. So I moved. Not the way she meant. I moved out of her life. Before I tell you how it ended, you need to know how it started. Because it didn't start with cruelty. It started with warmth. When I met Mira, she laughed with her whole body. She wasn't content yet. She was a barista who doodled hearts on cups and talked about someday owning a little studio where she could shoot photos for local brands. She had this contagious kind of hope that made you want to build things with her. I was 28, working in distribution planning for a regional grocery chain. Unsexy, spreadsheet-heavy work that keeps shelves stocked and trucks moving. I liked the predictability. I liked knowing that if I did my job, 100 quiet, invisible problems never happened. Mira liked the opposite. She liked the visible. She liked being seen. At first, it was sweet. She'd post a picture of the two of us eating cheap ramen and caption it, "Ethan made me laugh until I snorted." She'd tag me with a little heart. She'd insist on taking a photo of my hand holding hers because she said it looked safe. Safe. That word used to make me proud. Then her posts changed. It was subtle enough that you could miss it if you weren't living inside it. One month we were we. The next month, she was me. The first time I noticed, I was scrolling her feed while she was in the shower. There we were, last year, at a beach trip, my arm around her head tucked into my neck. And then, a newer post at the same beach, same sunset, same spot. Only now it was just her, perfectly angled, hair catching the light like a commercial. The caption wasn't about us. It was about alignment and energy and choosing myself. I told myself I was being sensitive, but the pattern kept repeating. My face disappeared first, then my presence, then even evidence of me. A dinner I'd paid for became solo date night. A weekend I'd planned became spontaneous getaway. A gift I'd saved for became manifested blessings. Meanwhile, behind every soft life photo was my hard work. The city apartment with the tall windows, my lease. The car she loved filming in because the interior looked expensive, my payments. The brand trips to places she couldn't pronounce correctly, my card. I didn't mind supporting her dream. I minded being edited out of it. Then came Ryder. Of course his name was Ryder. Mira met him at a networking brunch for creatives, which I encouraged her to attend because she'd been lonely, and I wanted her to have friends who understood her interests. She came home glowing like she'd been baptized in ring light. "Ethan," she said, breathless, shoes already kicked off in the hallway. "I met someone who gets it." I smiled. "That's great." "Who?" "Ryder." I waited for a last name. It never came. Ryder, according to Mira, was a visual director. He shot only on vintage camcorders because digital was too sharp. He believed in texture and imperfection and story. What he didn't believe in, apparently, was employment. The first time I met him was at a place Mira picked because she said the cocktails were photogenic. The menu looked like a poem written by someone who hated hungry people. Ryder arrived late, wearing a jacket that looked like it had been stolen from an art teacher and a necklace made of what I swear were tiny keys. He didn't shake my hand. He looked at me like he was trying to remember where he'd seen my face. "Oh," he said finally. "You're Ethan, the logistics guy. Distribution planning," I corrected. He nodded slowly, like I'd just admitted I collected stamps. "Stable," he murmured. "That's grounding?" Mira giggled, leaning toward him. "Right? Ethan is very structure. Structure, not smart, not reliable. Structure." Ryder took a sip of the drink I'd paid for and said, "Mira needs someone grounded so she can float. She's meant to float." Mira squeezed his arm like he'd said something profound. I stared at my water and felt something tight in my chest. "Floating costs money," I said evenly. "Somebody's paying for the balloons." Silence. Mira's smile froze. She shot me a look that could slice glass. "Ethan," she said with careful softness, "don't make it weird. Money is such a heavy topic." Ryder smirked. "Yeah," he added, "it's a bit transactional." I wanted to laugh. Transactional. As if my bank account hadn't been the invisible producer of their entire vibe. That night in the car, Mira didn't ask if I was okay. She asked, "Why do you always have to bring the energy down?" After Ryder arrived, he was everywhere. He was in our kitchen when I got home from work, making oat milk coffee like he lived there. He sat on our couch with his shoes on the cushions, brainstorming with Mira while I cooked dinner. He rode in the passenger seat of my car on weekends while I drove them to shoot locations, like I was their paid driver. Once, I came out of the bathroom and found him wearing my hoodie. "Hope that's cool," he said. I looked at Mira. She shrugged like my boundaries were an annoying setting she didn't know how to disable. When I tried to talk about it, Mira flipped the script so fast I got dizzy. "You're jealous," she said. "I'm not jealous," I said. "I'm uncomfortable. It feels like there's 3 people in our relationship." She rolled her eyes. "Ryder is a collaborator. You don't understand creative work." "I understand respect," I said. She laughed, sharp and short. "Respect? Ethan, you're being insecure. It's not cute." Then she used the word she loved when she wanted to win without arguing. "You," she said. "That's such a low-frequency mindset." Low frequency. As if I was a bad song she couldn't skip fast enough. The breaking point came in late August. Not a vineyard, not a white party. A charity gala on a boat. It was called the Harbor Lumina Benefit, an invite-only fundraiser held on a rented yacht that floated in the marina like a giant flex. Mira had been talking about it for weeks. "This is where brands will be," she said. "This is where people will see me." I asked, "Are you going with friends?" She blinked at me like I'd asked if water was wet. "You're driving," she said. "Obviously." "It's a boat," I said. "You're driving to the marina," she corrected, already annoyed. "And Ryder's coming. He needs to capture the night." I should have said no. I should have listened to the part of my brain that had been tapping on the inside of my skull for months. But a quieter part of me wanted confirmation, wanted proof, wanted to see the limit. "Fine," I said. The day of the gala, Mira treated our apartment like a backstage dressing room. Clothes everywhere. Perfume clouding the air. Ryder sprawled on our chair, filming Mira getting ready like it was a sacred ritual. When I walked out of the bedroom, I dressed carefully. Navy blazer, white shirt, clean shoes. I looked like myself, polished, presentable. Mira glanced up and her expression twisted. "That?" she said. "What? You look like you're going to a conference." "It's a gala," I said. "This is gala appropriate." Ryder laughed from behind the camera. "It's giving corporate attendee." Mira sighed dramatically, like my outfit was a personal betrayal. "Whatever," she said. "Just don't stand too close to me on the boat. The lighting is tricky and I don't want you to, like, block the vibe." I blinked. "Block the vibe," I repeated. She was already turning back to Ryder. "Okay, film me walking to the mirror. I want it to look effortless." Effortless. It took 3 people in my credit card to be effortless. I carried her garment bag to the car. I carried Ryder's equipment case because he said it would ruin his wrist energy. I drove. They sat in the back seat, laughing at memes and ranking other creators like they were judges at a talent show. Not once did Mira ask about my week. Not once did she touch my shoulder. In the rearview mirror, she looked at herself. The marina was packed. Luxury cars, heels clicking on concrete. A line of people dressed like they were trying to be photographed even while breathing. Mira stepped out of the car and didn't say thank you. She adjusted her dress and handed me her clutch without looking. "Hold this," she said. Ryder jogged ahead to get establishing shots. I followed, carrying her clutch and his extra battery pack. The yacht was lit with warm bulbs and the kind of music that makes you feel like you're in a commercial for being rich. A step-and-repeat wall had been set up near the entrance with the benefits logo and a swirl of white flowers. People queued for photos like it was a ride. Mira's eyes went bright. "Okay," she whispered to Ryder. "This is perfect." When it was our turn, she handed her phone to the hired photographer. "Can you do both portrait and landscape?" she chirped. Then she grabbed Ryder's arm. "Ryder, get in," she said. He slid beside her. They posed. They laughed on cue. They tilted their chins like they'd practiced. The photographer smiled politely. "And you, sir?" he asked me. "Do you want to join?" Mira hesitated. Not because she wanted me, because she was calculating. She glanced at Ryder, then at me. "Sure," she said, tight. "Ethan, just come on." I stepped into place beside her. I wrapped an arm gently around her waist. Her body went rigid. She leaned away, toward Ryder. The photographer lifted the camera. That's when Mira said it. "Wait." She held up a hand, smiling for the crowd. Then she turned to me and, without lowering her voice, said, "Ethan, can you move? You're distracting. The shot needs to feel clean." The line behind us shifted. Someone coughed. Ryder's mouth twitched like he was trying not to laugh. I stared at Mira, really looked. Her lashes were perfect. Her smile was practiced. Her eyes were empty. I thought about the version of her I met, the barista with doodled hearts. That girl wasn't gone, but she was buried under 1,000 edits. "You want me out of the picture?" I said. Mira's smile tightened. "Yes," she said, like she was correcting a waiter. "Just go stand behind the camera. Hold my clutch." Ryder snorted. I felt something in my chest click, not rage. Clarity. "Okay," I said. I stepped out of frame. Mira exhaled with relief, already turning back to the lens. "Okay," she sang. "Let's do one where we're laughing, like Candid." I looked down at the clutch in my hand. Then I set it on the ground beside the photographer's tripod. Gently, like placing down a burden. And I walked away. I didn't storm. I didn't shout. I walked through the crowd, past the bar, past the donors, past the selfie stations, like a man leaving the wrong meeting. At the dock, a staff member checked wristbands. "Sir?" he called, confused. "You're leaving already?" "Yeah," I said. "Emergency." He unhooked the small chain that marked the exit. I stepped onto land. My car sat where I'd parked it. The same car Mira called ours. The same car paid for with my name. I got in, and for the first time in months, my shoulders dropped. I didn't wait for guilt. I didn't wait for panic. I just drove. 10 minutes later, my phone started vibrating. Mira, call, text. I didn't look. 20 minutes later, another buzz. Ryder. Then Mira again. I kept driving. By the time I hit the highway, my screen looked like a slot machine of missed calls. Finally, at a gas station just outside the city, I parked and checked. The messages came in waves. "Where are you? Stop being dramatic. Ethan, this isn't funny. You're embarrassing me. Ryder needs the charger." Then from a number saved as Lena, Mira's newest best friend. "What the hell is wrong with you? Mira is sobbing. Come back and pick them up. Pick them." I stared at the word sobbing. Months ago, that would have pulled me back like gravity. Now it just read like a shipping notice. Problem: stranded. Cause: entitlement. I opened my banking app. The supplementary card I'd added for Mira for emergencies was still active. I tapped it. Freeze. Confirm. Then I changed the password to my streaming accounts. Not out of spite, out of procedure. You don't leave access after a breach. I replied to Lena with one sentence. She said I was distracting. So I left the shot. Have Ryder order a ride. Then I blocked the numbers. Mira, Lena, Ryder. My hands didn't shake. That was the scariest part. I felt calm. Back at the apartment, the silence was so clean it felt expensive. It was 8:10 p.m. If they got a ride, it would take at least an hour to get back. I didn't sit down. I didn't overthink. I went to the hall closet and pulled out the moving supplies I'd never used. Trash bags, boxes, tape. Not because I planned for this, because I planned for everything. I started with the bathroom. Her products lined the counter like a tiny boutique. I swept them into a bag, not angrily, efficiently. Then the bedroom. Her clothes took up 2/3 of the closet. I pulled them down and folded them into bags. Her shoes, her accessories, her ring light, all into bags. When I hit the living room, I paused at the wall where she'd taped a collage of vision. Yachts, beaches, designer logos, words like abundance and main character in glitter fonts. I peeled it down. The wall beneath was plain, better. By 9:30 p.m., 12 heavy bags sat in the hallway outside our door. I didn't throw them away. I wasn't cruel. I was done. Then I reset the router. New network name. Out of frame. New password. A string Mira would never guess. I sat on the couch and waited, not with dread, with curiosity. At 10:18 p.m., my banking app pinged. Declined. Rideshare charge $214.60. I didn't smile. I exhaled. A minute later, a payment request came through a Cash App. Mira requests $250 memo. Please, I'm stranded. This is evil, evil. As if leaving a yacht fundraiser was a felony. I declined. At 10:47 p.m., the elevator dinged. Footsteps. Then a stumble. What is this? Ryder's voice. Then Mira's voice, sharp with panic. My stuff. Why is my stuff out here? Ethan! Fists hit the door. Ethan, open the door. I didn't move. Ethan, this is insane, she cried. My card isn't working. Ryder had to call his aunt for the ride. Do you know how humiliating that was? Humiliating. That word again. I walked to the door. I didn't unlock it. I spoke through the wood. You have your bags, I said. You have your collaborator. You have your clean shot. You don't have this apartment anymore. You can't do this, she screeched. My name is on the lease, I said. Yours isn't. She cried harder. Where am I supposed to go? I leaned my forehead lightly against the door, not angry. Just finished. Go wherever your aesthetic takes you, I said. Silence. Then Ryder muttered something about toxicity and masculine ego. I almost laughed. Mira's voice turned small. Ethan, please. I'm scared. Scared, not of losing me, of losing the infrastructure. I said, good night, Mira, and I walked away. The next few weeks were quiet on the outside. On the inside, they were loud. I realized how much of my daily energy had been spent managing someone else's moods. No more negotiating dinner choices based on what photographed well. No more weekend shoots that were just errands with a filter. No more credit card surprises. I opened my budget spreadsheet and stared. Without Mira's little expenses, the curated salads, the constant rides, the investment pieces, my savings rate didn't just improve, it exploded. I was saving over $2,800 a month. I upgraded my gym membership. I bought a coffee machine I actually liked. I slept through the night for the first time in a year. And the strangest thing? I stopped feeling like I was boring. Mira hadn't been inspiring me. She'd been exhausting me. 3 months later, I ran into Tessa. Tessa used to be one of Mira's friends, one of the few who had a real job and the kind of eyes that actually saw people. She spotted me at a grocery store near my office in the produce aisle. "Ethan?" I turned, holding a bag of oranges. "Tessa," I said. She blinked like she was recalibrating. "Wow," she said. "You look different, in a good way." "I feel different," I admitted. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "I'm not here to guilt you," she said. "Honestly, I get why you disappeared, but you should know something." I waited. "Ryder is a disaster," she said flatly. I didn't react. Tessa continued. "He moved in with Mira like a week after you left. They got a tiny studio near the rail yard because it was all they could afford. No elevator, no light. Mira hates it. I pictured it and felt nothing. He convinced her to pivot her brand," Tessa said. "Now it's all grainy footage of cracked sidewalks and sad music. She lost a bunch of followers. Brands dropped her." "Shocking," I said. Tessa's mouth twitched. "And," she added, "he controls her account now? He sold her camera to fund a project. He pawns her jewelry. She's working shifts at a smoothie place to pay for film development." I exhaled slowly. Tessa studied my face. "She cries a lot," she said. "Like, real crying, not performative." "She misses stability," I said. Tessa nodded once, like she'd been waiting for me to say it. "Yeah," she whispered. "Probably." I kept moving. I got promoted. I started looking at condos, not because I needed to prove anything, because I wanted peace that couldn't be filmed. One evening, after touring a loft downtown, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, but something told me to listen. It was Mira. Her voice sounded older. "Ethan," she said, breathing hard. "It's me. I'm calling from, I don't know, a borrowed phone. She swallowed. "I messed up. I messed up so bad." A wet inhale. "Ryder is not who he said he was. He took everything. He sold my stuff. He's angry all the time. I don't feel safe." She paused, and the silence felt heavy. "I miss you," she whispered. "I miss feeling safe. Not I miss loving you. Safe. Again." "I'm at the all-night cafe on Benton and 6th, she said quickly. "Please, 5 minutes. I just need a familiar face." The cafe she named was 2 blocks from where I stood. 2 blocks. The universe loves dramatic proximity. I stared at the city lights and felt the old instinct rise. The hero instinct. Go. Fix. Pay. Save. Then I remembered her eyes on the yacht. Distracting. Clean shot. Hold my clutch. I realized something that finally sealed the door. If I rescued her now, I would never stop rescuing her. So I did the only thing that felt honest. I went. Not to save her. To end it. The cafe was bright and sterile, open 24 hours for people who had nowhere else to be. Mira sat in a corner booth with a cup of plain water. No latte art, no aesthetic, just water. She looked up when the door chimed. Her face crumpled with relief. Then shame. She stood too fast. "Ethan," she breathed. She moved toward me like she wanted a hug. I stayed where I was. She stopped. Her arms fell. "You came," she said, voice shaking. "I was nearby," I replied. She looked at me like she was seeing the new version of me and didn't like the angle. "You look good," she whispered. "I am good," I said. She nodded rapidly, tears filling her eyes. "I can fix it," she said. "I can change. I'll get a real job. We can start over. Ethan, I'm drowning." I watched her hands tremble. I believed she was drowning. I also believed she had set the water boiling. "Mira," I said calmly, "you don't miss me." She flinched. "Yes, I do," she insisted. I shook my head. "You miss the systems I built around you," I said. "You miss the rent getting paid. You miss the car being there. You miss the feeling that no matter what you did, Someone else would handle the consequences. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "That's not fair," she whispered. I leaned forward slightly, keeping my voice low. "Do you remember the yacht?" I asked. She blinked. "You told me my face was distracting," I said. "You asked me to move so the shot would look clean." Her lips parted. "I didn't mean—" "You did," I said gently. "You meant exactly what you said. You just didn't think it would cost you anything." She squeezed her eyes shut. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry." I nodded once. "I believe you," I said, "and I still won't take you back." Her eyes flew open. "Why? Because I finally liked my life." But I didn't say that. Instead, I said the truth. "Because I'm curating a life that doesn't require me to disappear," I said. "A life with respect, with quiet, with integrity." She shook her head, panicking. "Ethan, please." I stepped back, and I let the final line land like a mirror. "To be honest," I said softly, "you just don't fit the frame anymore." Her mouth opened. No words came out. The sentence hit her because it used her language. Frame, fit, clean, distracting. She stared at me like I'd changed the rules mid-game. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. I held her gaze. "You'll figure it out," I said. "You always do. You just used to figure it out with my money." I turned toward the door. "Ethan," she called, voice cracking into that familiar demand. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Outside, the air was cool and ordinary. No filter, no soundtrack, just real life. And for the first time in years, I felt perfectly in focus. If you're watching this and you recognize that slow, subtle erasure, where your love turns into labor and your presence becomes a problem, listen to me. You don't have to stay in the background. You're allowed to leave the shot. Sometimes the most powerful breakup isn't a scene. It's silence. It's a locked door. It's walking away with your peace. And that's the only aesthetic that ever mattered. If this story hit close to home, don't forget to like and subscribe.